Los Angeles in the early 1900s was barely recognizable compared to the city we know now. There were no freeways, no Hollywood sign, and definitely no Instagram stars. Just dust, oil derricks, and a whole lot of unchecked ambition. The city was in its adolescence, and like any teenager, it was wild, unpredictable, and easy to manipulate. The people in charge? Mostly good old boys with ties to railroad tycoons and land barons who saw Los Angeles not as a place to govern, but a place to conquer. And right in the middle of it all was a man named Arthur Cyprian Harper. He came off as a genteel Southern gentleman, the kind of guy who talked about civic virtue in public, but played dirty in the shadows. When Harper ran for mayor in 1906, he painted himself as a reformer, promising to clean up corruption and make LA respectable. But what he actually brought was chaos, scandal, and one of the most brazenly corrupt administrations the city had ever seen. It didn't take long for Harper to show his true colors once he got into office. Instead of rooting out the vice dens and illegal operations that dotted downtown, he cozied up to them. Brothel owners, gambling bosses, and saloon keepers didn't fear Harper. They thanked him. He protected them, made sure the police looked the other way, and in return they paid him off through a network of shady middlemen and political fixers. It wasn't just about booze and brothels. Harper's machine extended into the city's booming real estate deals and early infrastructure contracts. The LA Aqueduct project, which would go on to define the city's future, was already stirring controversy, and Harper allegedly siphoned off chunks of money through inflated contracts and backdoor negotiations. Reports swirled that he had pocketed millions in today's dollars through under-the-table deals. And the wildest part? Most of it didn't even make the front page, until one night, everything exploded. Around 1908, the Los Angeles Herald got wind of something so bold it could barely be believed. Multiple sources claimed that Harper had been caught, more than once, drunk inside a well-known brothel run by Pearl Morton, a local madam who operated out of a shadowy alley behind what's now the Hall of Justice. It wasn't some hush-hush thing among insiders. People saw him stumbling out of the building. The police didn't arrest him. They helped him into his car. And when journalists started poking around, they didn't have to look hard to confirm it. Harper's defenders tried spinning the story, saying he was doing research on vice operations, but no one bought that. The mayor getting blackout drunk in a whorehouse wasn't something you could dress up with political language. The Herald ran the headline. Other papers followed. The public, already suspicious of Harper's loyalty to big business, suddenly had something raw, human, and humiliating to point at. But instead of stepping down, Harper fought like hell to stay in power. He denied the accusations outright at first, then blamed political enemies, then said his visits were part of an unofficial investigation. The city council called for a formal inquiry. Harper fired loyalists turned whistleblowers. Protesters gathered outside City Hall, demanding a recall election. Incredibly, he clung to office for several more months, trying to outmaneuver the outrage. And here's the twist. He still had a base of support. Developers, saloon owners, and some unions that benefited from his protection racket stuck by him. They didn't care what he did behind closed doors because their bank accounts were thriving. That's the thing about political corruption. If you grease enough palms, people will turn a blind eye to almost anything. And Harper had been greasing palms since day one. Eventually, the pressure got too heavy. Petitions were flying. Newspapers were calling for his resignation daily. By March 1909, with more than 25,000 signatures demanding he be ousted, Harper finally resigned, becoming the first mayor in LA history to be forced out of office through a public revolt. But if you think that's the end of the story, think again. Harper didn't crawl away in disgrace. He didn't disappear. He went right back into the private sector, back into banking, land speculation, and civic clubs like nothing had happened. He still had connections, still had cash, and most importantly, he still had influence. Within a year, former allies floated the idea of him running again. He flirted with a comeback. He wasn't re-elected officially, but he never really left. In back rooms and quiet meetings, Harper's fingerprints were all over the decisions being made in LA's halls of power. The most jaw-dropping part of this story isn't that a mayor was caught drunk in a brothel. It's that the system he built didn't collapse with him. City departments still had Harper loyalists. zoning decisions still benefited his allies, and the permits still fast-tracked for the right price. In a weird way, his downfall barely slowed down the machine. He'd built a web of political favors and silent partnerships that were almost impossible to unravel. You could remove Harper from the mayor's chair, but you couldn't root him out of the system. He had become part of LA's political DNA, proof that in a city built on spectacle, even disgrace could be spun into longevity. And that's what makes this story more than just a footnote in LA history. It's a case study in how power protects itself. The idea that public shame leads to political exile is a fantasy. Harper proved you could get exposed in the most humiliating way possible, falling down drunk in a brothel as mayor, and still pull strings from behind the curtain. You don't need public office to run a city. You just need leverage, connections, and a memory people are too busy to hold on to. Harper might be long gone, but the blueprint he left behind, it's still here, quiet, slick, and always watching.